Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. I'm Brandon Ware. You're watching Angel 65, my channel for all things music related, both music posting and music reviews. This is the second chapter of my new King Crimson deep dive series, so I'm updating where I've been so far and where I'm going. I ended my deep dive into them, or paused it rather, back in August after I finished the complete 1969 recordings box set. I wanted to wait till I had some time off of work to go back into it and start the deep dive back up. So where I decided to start was with these. The King Crimson 1969 to 1972 vinyl box set and the 72 to 74 vinyl box set. So, quick overview of what these are. These box sets contain the first 7 King Crimson studio albums, all remixed by Steven Wilson. These are the 40th anniversary remixes that were released both in the box sets and on the individual CD DVDAs, as well as some extra stuff from each period. So I decided to buy these because I am a big fan of the Steven Wilson remixes. All of them, I think, bring extra life into the recordings. They get rid of some of the surface noise. You have higher fidelity because everything is first generation tape, which it particularly makes a big impact on Lizard and Lark's Tongues, I think, are the albums that benefit most from it, just because everything is clearer and more upfront. Those are very layered and dense albums, so having stuff a little more spaced out with more of a sheen to it really gives it a lot of clarity and increases the impact of the album. In most cases, I prefer these Steven Wilson remixes to the original version, so that is why I actually sold off all of my original pressings or original mixes remastered vinyl of King Crimson and just kept these, with the exception of In the Court of the Crimson King. I still have my original Atlantic Records pressing of that. That is one of my more valuable records, and I have a sentimental attachment to it. I still really like the sound of that and the original mix, so that is not leaving the collection. And I have the remastered version of USA on a single LP, because the version that is in here is not the same as what's on the single LP version, so I kept that as well. Everything else I sold off because it was either beat up or I just didn't see the point in keeping 2 copies, because in general I really prefer these Steven Wilson remixes. So I was very happy to receive these, and I'm going to talk through what's in them and whether or not you should buy them. So we'll start off with the first period, which is 69 to 72. So both of the boxes have the same form factor. They just have the word printed on the front and on the outer spine. Other than that, the box is completely blank, so not too much to feast your eyes on, but it's minimalistic, and I can enjoy minimalism. On the spine of the inner slipcase, you see the DGM logo as well as KCL, indicating 50th anniversary release for King Crimson. These both came out in 2018, I believe. So pull off the outer slipcase and the inner slipcase. There's the album spines. So what's in here? You get the card that was on the outside of the packaging, which I kept, of course, because it has an overview. It has the track listing for each album and the production credits. It indicates that the original production credits are present on the LP sleeves because they're replicas, so the production credits for the new Steven Wilson remixes are all on this insert. As indicated on that sheet, you get a booklet, which is the King Crimson history booklet as it appeared in the Young Person's Guide to King Crimson vinyl in 1975. I actually have never owned that release, so I don't even know what is on that. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to the relevant record in this set, but this booklet originally appeared in that box set, and it is just a booklet of photographs from the 69 to 74 period, as well as a timeline consisting of the concert dates, some notes by Robert Fripp, as well as tons and tons of newspaper clippings. A lot of this has been replicated in the box set series, so a lot of this stuff, if you have those box sets, is not going to be new to you, or perhaps you owned the original Young Person's Guide vinyl, so you've seen this entire booklet already. Very nice booklet, I will say, for something that seems rather thin. It's quite an involved read. It's 10 pages of 3-column text that, as you can see, is quite small. So this is a good 2-hour read right here, just through the history of King Crimson. It's very fascinating how many bad and scathing reviews are included here. I guess that was probably a choice for Robert Fripp, just to show what King Crimson's relevance was to various writers at that time, I suppose. Very interesting that there would be so much negativity in this book, and there is, but I suppose it just reinforces the idea that King Crimson is not a band, it's a way of doing things. I don't say that to be facetious. I completely, at least I think I understand what Robert means by that, but it does show that this is a very fractured band, and it had very fractured opinions from all the music press. But overall, a very nice booklet, a nice overview, and a good way to get back into my King Crimson deep dive, as it provides a good history of this first period in Crimson's history. So, nice booklet, and then we get the LPs themselves, all in original replica sleeves. So we get In the Court of the Crimson King. On the inside of the first 4 main studio albums, we get this cool custom DGM inner sleeve, which is a small addition, but I really like it because I just think that logo is cool, and it's just adds to the value. And they are poly-lined, which is nice. They're not just paper sleeves. What's interesting is that they kind of took the same form as the CD DVDAs, in that the labels have no text on them, and not even an indication of which side is which, actually. It's just the front cover on side A, and the back cover on side B. And that's generally the case with all of the sleeves in here, and the discs themselves. So there's the first one. This is the 40th anniversary remix, not the 50th anniversary remix of In the Court. Although I believe Epitaph was, Moonchild was restored to its full length. I can't remember. We have In the Wake of Poseidon, which is just a fascinating sleeve, arguably as bizarre as the first album, but maybe more rooted in the 70s, just because it's very romantic painting type stuff. I don't know, very, very odd sleeve. And the sleeve is actually textured, as I believe the original album was, so that's kind of cool. And then we get the lyrics on the inside. Again, that custom DGM sleeve with front cover and rear cover. This is the one disc that actually does contain part of the original master. The Devil's Triangle is the original stereo mix, not a remix, because it could not be remixed as the multi-tracks remain missing. There's one other album in this set for which that's the case, which we'll get to. Then we get Lizard, which, although my least favorite King Crimson album, is probably my favorite sleeve. The sleeve is just fantastic, and you really do need to see this in full 12-inch vinyl size to do it justice. A little CD just does not do justice to how intricate this sleeve is, with stuff representing the songs, as well as some little, just the little dragon illustrations in the lettering. I just love it. I think this is fantastic. A lot more romantic than the album itself is, I would argue. And then the marbling on the inside with the lyrics. Again, custom DGM sleeve, and this one actually is slightly interesting. The labels are backwards, depending on how you look at it. So side 1 is the K, side 2 is the C, which is the reverse of what the album cover is, but of course it makes sense to have the K first because it's King Crimson. So side A is the K, side 2 is the C. And then the last studio album from the period, we get Islands. Again, not a favorite, although it does have Sailor's Tale, which is just phenomenal. I really appreciate Sailor's Tale because it points the way to where they were headed after with the next band. This has an insert. It has the original lyrics and pictures, which I believe were the inner bag for the UK version, but on the inside it actually opens up, and this is the American artwork. So the original pressing on Atlantic I had of this had this artwork on it, and I decided to sell it because I prefer the original cover better, and this also sounds much better than the original mix and the pressing that I owned. So there's that. Custom DGM sleeve. We got the front cover here, rear cover there. So that's all of the main studio albums in the first set, and then we get one additional set, which is interesting, as it is in the same cover as The Young Person's Guide to King Crimson, which again, I've never heard that compilation. So this has the same artwork, but it is not the same compilation. It is a collection of alternate cuts, most of which are all from the box set. Some of these are on the individual CD DVDs. So you get a picture of each of the 4 lineups from this period. So what is on this? You get a full alternate version of In the Court. So you get the trio version of Schizoid Man, alternate take of I Talk to the Wind, backing track for Epitaph, Moonchild Take 1, and then Take 3 of The Court of the Crimson King, as well as the duo version of I Talk to the Wind. You get the Cadence and Cascade Greg Lake version, which is interesting, and then an alternate mix of Peace and End. Side 3, you get the single version of Cat Food and the remix of Groon. You get alternate versions of Indoor Games and Lady of the Dancing Water. I don't own the Sailor's Tales box set, which I'll talk more about when I get to the next video, but this Indoor Games alternate take is exclusive to this set as far as my collection is concerned. I don't have the box set that it came from, and it's not on the Lizard DVD. Lady of the Dancing Water is, however. You also get Prince Rupert Awakes, which is just a solo piano from Keith Tippett, which is phenomenal. In many ways, it's better than the actual version on the Lizard album. And then an alternate version of Prince Rupert's Lament, again from the Lizard suite. And lastly, side 4, you get the Islands lineup. So you get a Peacemaking Stint Unrolls, which is on the Islands DVD. And that is sort of a rehearsal early version of music that eventually became Lark's Part 1 and Lament. You get alternate take of Sailor's Tale, which is, again, I don't have replicated elsewhere in my collection, so just on this LP. Ladies of the Road, the David Singleton and Robert Fripp remix, which is very interesting, very different from the original, and certainly not like the Steven Wilson version either. An alternate take of Prelude, Song of the Gulls, which again is not replicated elsewhere in my collection, and then Islands, Run Through of the End with the oboe prominent, which is on the Islands DVD. So just a collection of alternates and different mixes. Now, this is interesting that the final set, LP here, instead of having that custom DGM sleeve with just the DGM logo, has advertisements for the rest of the catalog. So this has all the CD DVDs on the front side, and then the tour boxes and releases by the final King Crimson lineup here. You get the front cover replicated here, and then a different portion of the front cover replicated here. The next set, or the next disc rather, has the same inner sleeve with the advertisements. And as far as labels go, you get the cat food single cover on side A, and then the back cover of Young Person's Guide on side B. So that is the first set. Overall, I'm very impressed with it. I like the decision to go with two discs of alternate cuts, presenting kind of a different history, rather than the Earthbound live album, because I'm not a huge fan of Earthbound. I've kind of gained some appreciation for it recently, which we'll talk about again when I get to the next chapter in this King Crimson deep dive. But overall, the alternate cuts, it's a nice like warm-up to what's in the box sets and the CD DVD versions of this period. And the original 4 studio albums remixed by Steven Wilson all sound fantastic. So if you haven't heard those remixes, I highly recommend you check them out. If you like them, then maybe you'll do what I did and replace your King Crimson vinyl collection with these. I do think they're great pressings. Overall, they sound good. There was some weird scuff noise on In the Court and maybe a couple other sides, but it wasn't enough to distract from the listening to me, and I do think these sound great. It does say they were cut from tapes, which I don't know if analog tapes were made of the Steven Wilson remixes, because I know that the remixes were done completely digitally, so perhaps they cut it to tape first and then used the tapes to cut this. So the cutting came from all analog, but of course the mixes themselves were done digitally. So for audiophiles that are 100% analog purists, this is probably not something they'd be interested in. But to my ears, they just sound better. And I enjoy them, and they're higher quality pressings in better condition because they're new. So now we're on to the second set. Again, here's the info sheet that was on the outside with the track listing and details of what's inside. We get this, which is a poster of all the King Crimson album art from the 70s. Really like this poster. Would hang it if I had a square frame and a space to put it, just because I think it's cool to have all the album art represented. It says as it appeared on the original Young Person's Guide sleeve interior, so I don't know if this poster was included with that original release or if it was just part of the gatefold jacket and they replicated it as a poster for this, but whatever they did, I like the poster. It's a nice inclusion. And then we get a booklet, which is not a replica of anything from the past. This is just a 24-page booklet of photographs from the 72 to 74 period. So a lot of these are also in the box sets covering this period, but it's nice to have a little pictorial history. A lot less reading material, but that's okay because the history of this band was also covered in that history guide that's in the first box set. So we'll just quickly flip through these. Try not to damage it while I'm doing so. Love Jamie Muir with his saw. Fantastic. Nice booklet. Sturdy cardstock. Feels good. It's actually kind of nice not to have a ton of words in this because it doesn't detract from the pictures themselves, which are just cool pictures and some memorabilia from the period. Not a necessary inclusion, but certainly nice to have. And I like that we get a list of what the photographs are and credits as well. So that's the booklet, and now we're on to the LPs. So we start with Lark's Tongues and Aspects. So this is the 2012 remix, not the most recent one that was on the Dolby Atmos box set. Inside is the lyrics insert, not just the inner bag, but an actual separate insert. Again, the main 4 albums, we have this DGM custom sleeve with front cover on the back, the front, and since there is no artwork on the rear cover, this is just a picture of the band on the side B label. So there is that one. Then Starless and Bible Black, which is probably my favorite King Crimson album of the 70s. I adore this record. I just enjoy it so much. It's one that when I first got into this period and heard this and then Red, I liked Red more at the time, and I still like Red a lot, but this is probably my favorite just because of all the improv stuff on it. I think is fantastic. And Fracture is just unbelievable. One of the coolest guitar pieces ever, and the way the whole band builds it is fantastic. So we get the front cover, just title on the front, and then the artwork from the inner gatefold on the back. And then the final studio album from the period, even though again it has a live improv on it, Providence. We have Red, custom DGM sleeve. We get the 3 portraits on the front and then the VU meter on the back. And then we get to the original stuff that's unique to this set, which is the Lark's Tongues alternate mixes album. So this is the American sleeve artwork for Lark's Tongues without the red border, and it just has all of the same alternate mixes that are in the Lark's Tongues box set, which I'm about to embark on next. Custom DGM sleeve. We get a different close-up of the front artwork this time than the original Lark's Tongues LP, and then again just a photo on the back of the band. And then lastly we get to what I was probably most excited about across both of these box sets, and the things that I am most excited to have, which is the updated King Crimson USA album. So this has the entire Asbury Park concert across 2 LPs, and it contains the original audio. It does not include any of the overdubs by Eddie Jobson. This is all the original 4-piece band playing live at Asbury Park. If I'm not mistaken, the cut of 21st Century Schizoid Man on the original USA LP was from Providence, so this includes the version from Asbury Park instead. So same artwork as the original on the front and back with the altered track list, and then we get the Curlian handprints or whatever, not the coolest gatefold ever. And again, just like the last set, the last double LP has the advertising sleeves. We get the front cover here, picture of the band there. And then on the second disc, same inner sleeve. We get the Curlian handprint from the back cover on the front side of the LP, and then another picture of the band on the back. So this was probably the thing I was most excited about, because the Asbury Park concert is fantastic, and to have the whole thing unedited, including the full Asbury Park improv, as well as the improv at the end of Easy Money, plus Fracture and Starless, which were not included on the original, is fantastic. I'm going to probably upset some King Crimson fans and say that I much prefer the live versions of Starless to the studio version. I thought the studio version kind of watered it down a little bit. It's cool to have all the horns on it and some of the same people from Islands playing on it, but it's not as aggressive or as powerful as the live versions, which I think Bill Bruford's drumming particularly is great. And maybe Asbury Park's not the best version of Starless, but it's still a great version. I really, really, really like that. So there we go. That is both box sets. Now, on to the more review portion. Are these worth buying? That depends. They're both out of print, and they're both very expensive. In fact, they were out of print when I ordered them, and I ordered, they were brand new copies from Amazon, but they were quite high in price, and I've seen the price fluctuate a little bit up and down since I got this, but whether or not you want to buy these is dependent on how dedicated of a Crimson fan you are and how much you prefer these to the original mixes, and if you really want the exclusive stuff, which is in the first set, the alternate takes 2 LP, and then in this one, the Lark's Tongues 2 LP set, or the alt takes set, and then the full unedited USA concert. So whether you buy these or not depends a lot on how much you want those items that are exclusive to the sets. But in general, I'm very impressed with them. They did cost way too much for what's in them. Paid a lot of money for those. I'm not even going to say how much. So I'm not going to let that factor into my overall review, though, just because when they first came out, they weren't that price. I just didn't know about them at that time. But I did want to get them because I wanted something to replace all of my 70s King Crimson vinyl in one hit. And plus you get the Steven Wilson remixes and all the exclusive content. And the box sets themselves are nice. They're not too elegant with their artwork, but it's kind of a simple elegance, minimalism, as well as the little booklets in each, which is also a nice bonus, but not necessarily a buying point. So overall, all of the Steven Wilson remixes are fantastic. They all get 5 out of 5. As I said earlier, except for the first album, In the Court, I prefer them all over the original mixes. So I would recommend seeking these out if you are like me and prefer those versions, or just want to have them on vinyl because you like vinyl and maybe you don't want to dig through the big CD box sets or pull out your CD DVD every time you want to hear high-res audio. I know resolution doesn't really apply to vinyl, but again, like I said, these are probably cut from tapes that were transferred from the digital mixes. Worth a check out. If you can't get your hands on these, you should still check out the remixes if you haven't heard them. As I said, I think the albums that benefit most from the remix and are really improved by it are Lark's Tongues and Aspic and Lizard. Those two albums sound a lot better than the original mixes to me. Lizard in particular, I actually almost kind of started to enjoy it with the new remix. Still not a favorite moment in King Crimson history for me, but overall, a great mix, and you get to hear a lot of the overlapping solos much clearer in the remix, and especially the 5.1 mix, but we'll get to that in the next chapter. So I decided to go through these to just refresh myself on all the studio material and get a little brief overview of some of the live and alternate takes material. And since then, I have started delving back into the digital discography. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about where I'm at in the chronology right now. So I started with In the Wake of Poseidon and have moved through the 70 to 72 period prior to the Lark's Tongues lineup, and that's where I just finished. So that's what we'll cover next. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you've heard these, if you prefer the Steven Wilson remixes or the originals. If you've got your hands on these box sets, what do you think about them? How much did you pay for them? Do you think it was outlandish? I thought I paid quite a bit for these, but in the end, I'm happy to have them because they sound much better than the original LPs I had, and I am keeping these in my collection as my main source of King Crimson vinyl from the 70s. So, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours, and I'll update you on the first, or I suppose second chapter in Crimson's history in the next video. All right, bye.